let's pull out the brackets. Anybody did some brackets? I got a whole group going right now of all of us with our brackets. Last I checked, I was in first place. Now, you know how things change. Teams win, teams lose. You never know what you're going to get. But last night I was in first place. I didn't feel any type of way. I felt good about where I was with the teams that I picked. Now, we all know when it comes to March Madness, sometimes you never know where it's going to go. And I'm still in first place. I just picked it up. I'm just looking at it right now. You never know where it's going to go. You got to kind of go with your heart and not really what the stat line or the seedings look like. So let's start in the South region, right? For Perry, this is my bracket. I had Auburn, who was the number 1 seed. Alabama State, shout out to Alabama State. Did you guys check out that Alabama State at St. Francis game? Came down to the last play of the game with about a minute left, about a second left on the clock. Bama State tips it in, takes the lead, and get their first ever NCAA tournament victory. And, of course, 16 playing to 16 in the first 16 in, you get the number 1 seed. And I had Auburn over Alabama State. Auburn with a 30-point victory, 83-63 over Alabama State. Here's one where I picked Creighton over Louisville. I went with Creighton, who was the 9th seed, over HC Louisville. And Creighton won 89-75. I picked Michigan, who was the 5th seed, over 12th seed UC San Diego. UC San Diego had both men and women's basketball team in this year's tournament. Michigan barely held on, 3-point victory. I took Texas A&M over Yale, 80-71 as the number 4 Aggies moved on. Here's one. North Carolina was in that first 4 game as well as the 11th seed. Came out, listen, took on San Diego State, beat the people by 40. Ole Miss is a team who I saw in the SEC tournament. Crazy ending in that quarterfinal game against Arkansas. Did you guys see that? Where Ole Miss knocks down a 3 as time gets ready to expire to move on to the next round to take on Auburn. But North Carolina looked damn good in that first game. I actually picked them in this one over Ole Miss. I thought maybe, Ole Miss has shown throughout the season they can compete with some of the best teams in the country. They're the 6th seed. They got it done over North Carolina. This was my first mistake right here. Ole Miss gets it 71-64. I had Iowa State, the number 3 seed, over Lipscomb. Iowa State wins 82-55. I had another one. Here's another one. Number 7 Marquette over number 10 New Mexico. New Mexico gets the victory 75-66 and moves on to the next round. And here's a team I have not paid attention to all year. Didn't even realize they were that good, but now they're in my face. Michigan State, the Spartans. I forgot about Michigan State. I'm so caught up in SEC basketball being in the South and SWAC, I just completely missed out on Michigan State being the number 2 seed, but I picked them, of course, just by the name. 87-62 over Bryant, number 15 seed. So in the round of 32 coming out of the South, I have Auburn versus Creighton. I got that. I got Michigan versus Texas A&M. I messed up with the North Carolina, so it's Ole Miss versus Iowa State. I got that. Then I messed up with Marquette. New Mexico over Marquette, and I have New Mexico and Michigan State. So far, 2 mess-ups on my bracket. That's just out of the South. All right, let's move over to the West. Number 1, Florida, taking on the number 16 seed, Norfolk State, winners of the MEAC. Norfolk with a great season, 1-point victory in the MEAC championship over South Carolina State. They found themselves in the NCAA tournament, did not have to play in the first 16 games. And Florida flexed their muscles to show why they was the number 1 seed in this one. 95-69, I went Florida. Here's another one I picked. 8 versus 9, very tricky right there with UConn and Oklahoma. I went UConn over Oklahoma, 67-59. The Huskies continue to move on for me. Memphis let me down. Number 5 seed Memphis against 12 seed Colorado State. Colorado State with the upset. 78-70. Memphis, what's going on? 0-3 in your last 3 NCAA appearances. I took Maryland, who was the 4th seed, 81-49 over number 13 Grand Canyon. Here's my upset right here where I got it right. Drake over Missouri, right? Missouri had a phenomenal turnaround. They were a team last year that was just horrible in the SEC. Then they turned it around this year, became a top 25 team, but something in me said, Perry, pick Drake. The number 11 seed versus the number 6 seed. I took Drake over Missouri, and it paid off 67-57. Drake moves on to the next round. I took Texas Tech, number 3 seed, over North Carolina Wilmington, 82-72. Hey, here's another one. Y'all know when I say I have my favorite Confederate teams, you know I'm a big Arkansas Razorback fan. How about the Razorbacks and Coach John Calipari in year one, down to 7 guys on the rosters, made a tough push in the SEC tournament, and then got a chance to go against Bill Self and the legendary Kansas Jayhawk program. The Razorbacks hang on 79-72 with an upset 10 seed over the 7 seed. First time Kansas has been knocked out of the opening round. And then St. John over Nebraska, Omaha, 82-53. So the way things are looking in the next round of 32 coming out of the West, I got it right. Florida over UConn, Florida versus UConn. Memphis let me down, so it's Colorado State. Maryland, I got Drake and Texas Tech right there together. And I got Arkansas and St. John. So far in my bracket, I got 3 mess-ups. Just 3. Let's keep it moving. Let's go to the East. Duke over Mount St. Mary's. Of course, Duke right now, looking good, 93-49. I picked Baylor in that 8 versus 9. Baylor over Mississippi State, 75-72. I took Oregon over Liberty, number 5. Oregon, number 5 seed, Oregon, 81-52 over Liberty. Arizona finally stepped up. Akron was a pretty good team coming out of the MAC. I had checked them out as the season went on. They were a really good team, but no match for Arizona. 93-65 as the number 4 seed defeats the number 13 seed. Here's another one where I thought I was going to get another upset with that 11 versus 6. VCU versus BYU. We have seen VCU in the NCAA tournament turn some heads over the years, but BYU got it done. This was my first mistake on this one. 80-71 BYU. I took Wisconsin, the number 3 seed, over Montana, 85-66. I took St. Mary's, the 7 seed, over Tennessee Vanderbilt, 59-56. And, of course, I took the Alabama Crimson Tide, the number 2 seed, over Robert Morris, in which they won 90-81. So if we move on to the round of 32, now in the East, I got it right. Duke versus Baylor, Oregon versus Arizona. Here's a slash. BYU beat VCU. And they'll take on Wisconsin. And I have St. Mary's versus Alabama. So I'm not doing so bad right now, ladies and gentlemen. But let's go to the Midwest and check things out. And go through your brackets with me. Let me know how you're doing. Check your parlays. Number 1, Houston over Edwardsville, 78-40. Of course, I went with Houston. I took number 8. That 8 and 9 is a tricky one. And that 11 versus 6 is a tricky one. I took Gonzaga, the number 8 team, 89-68 over number 9, Georgia. Just wasn't impressed with Georgia. How about this one? Some told me to go with Will Wade. I just figured Clemson was going to get it done. McNeese took off on them in the first half, and Clemson battled back as much as they could in the second half, still fell short. I mean, all the way down to the end. McNeese with the upset. 12 seed versus the number 5 seed, 69-67 McNeese. With their first ever NCAA tournament victory, move on. And Will Wade, of course, now moving on to NC State. Curious to see how long he's going to stay with this program with the success that they're having. I took number 4, Purdue, over High Point, 75-63. Here's another one where I rolled with Illinois. Illinois early on, and as the season started, looked like a really good team. 86-71 over Xavier, the 11 seed. Kentucky moves on over Troy, number 3, Kentucky, 76, number 14 seed, Troy, 57. I took UCLA over Utah State. And Tennessee, the number 2 seed, 77-62 over Wofford. All right, as we move on to the round of 32, I have Houston and Gonzaga right. McNeese snuck me. They're going to have a tough one over Purdue. I got Illinois and Kentucky, which I think is going to be a really good game, and UCLA over Tennessee. How you guys looking thus far? How you looking thus far? It sound like so far I'm doing all right. I'm not too far off. I'm doing all right. I'm still first place in my group. Now, the games today, I don't know what to tell you. You're on your own, right? I don't know what to tell you today. But I'm just saying, anybody with a perfect bracket, do those still exist? 121 people with perfect brackets. Less than 1%. Woo! I'll take them to the casino with me so far. But it's just the opening round. Let's see how far things go. Once again, shout out to McNeese, getting it done here for the state of Louisiana on the men's side. But that's the NCAA tournament right there for you. March Madness is it hadn't really showed its head too much. I told you there was a couple upsets. My biggest one so far was Drake getting the victory over Missouri. And then I'll take Arkansas over Kansas. Now, Arkansas is going to have their hands full today with Rick Pitino and St. John, a team that can play some great defense.